Good evening and welcome to tonight's program, which we're really excited about. I've spent a lot of time today with this group, and I think we're all going to have a lot of fun. So as many of you know, because several of you have come to a couple of other programs about the Benjamin Wigfall exhibition, this exhibition and project and book came out of a groundswell of community support in both New York and Virginia for Benjamin Wigfall, the artist, the teacher, the mentor. And tonight's program really celebrates that. And so it's an exhibition that happened between two museums, the Samuel Dorsky Museum of Art at the State University of New York in New Paltz, which is where Benjamin Wigfall taught from 1963 forward, and the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. Of course, he grew up here in Richmond and was very much a part of the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts from his late teen years through his college and 20s, which is a whole other talk. You can tune into another time to hear more about that Virginia chapter. And I want to begin by thanking Richard Frumis, who hates to be in the spotlight, but I'm just going to give him credit as a connector between those two communities. Richard is not only formally a manager of the Wigfall Artist Estate, he's played an enormous role working alongside Benjamin Wigfall's children, Gino Wigfall and Gia Wigfall Okibello, and Gia is here tonight with her son Moses, organizing Ben's work and working with Gino on the archive, and then Richard scanned hundreds, that's not an exaggeration, of documents for us to use as we were researching, and then helped coordinate with us and the Wigfall family. We acquired a much larger body of his work so we could represent his legacy here at the museum in addition to the works that we had from the 1950s, as well as his entire archive, which is just an incredible privilege and honor to be able to tell his story. And today we spent a little bit of time in the archive looking at those photographs, and I want to thank Sharon Van Dyke, another community member and Communications Village mentor and participant and organizer. We had such a wonderful time writing out names of community members and photographs, and that story will continue to go on and on. So that was, it was a really wonderful day we've already had. And I also want to talk about another project which this project inspired, which Benjamin Wigfall inspired. Tonight's event, even though we're here in Virginia, is going to be mainly about Kingston, New York, and Communications Village. But one of the things that Benjamin Wigfall said about communications, or said about, in particular, the Pankaki neighborhood of Kingston, was that he felt a sense of belonging and familiarity there, in part because it reminded him so much of his childhood neighborhood of Church Hill and the community here in Richmond. And so with that in mind, we were so delighted and excited to have a partnership with Oakwood Arts in Church Hill, which is a community arts organization that specifically works with teenagers in the community, focusing on the arts and careers in the arts. And so we were able to design a 3-week program with Oakwood Arts, and I want to thank Shannon Castleman and Sarah Irvin, as well as Taylor Robinson, for their wonderful enthusiasm and teamwork. It was an enormous amount to pull off, but they were so excited about this, in which we looked at Benjamin Wigfall and Communications Village as a model. So one of the things that Ben talked about was how important it was that his high school art teacher brought him here to VMFA, and how seeing the art here really gave him another language, another visual language. So every week during the program, the students came first to VMFA and spent the day here. And also want to thank our own staff, Celeste, Feta, and Paula, Sailor Robinson, and all the staff who gave behind-the-scenes tours for helping to coordinate that. So this is the students coming to see the exhibition and then learning about the model of Communications Village, and then looking at the work and listening to the component that went with it. And then another part of the project that was really important to us was learning from the Communications Village participants who you're going to hear from tonight, the role of both Ben giving them an understanding of the importance of their own voice, as well as the voice of other community members. So part of the project involved them working with artists and then going out into the community and making images and recording conversations with community members. So, and then another major part of Communications Village was that Ben wanted to bring the outstanding artists of his day into the community in Kingston to work with the students. So Oakwood Arts brought the outstanding artists of our time into work with the students at Oakwood Arts. So I want to thank Eunicia Buster, Raven Nicole Smith, Maya Jackson, Shioki Lanson, and Brian Palmer, some of whom are here tonight, who worked closely with the students. And and finally, another wonderful connection, our own Orlando Irving, who is a scope officer here, happened to tell me his story about growing up in Churchill. He's at least third generation Churchill. So he was one of the subjects that the students in Oakwood met with and took a photograph with Brian as part of that project. So I just want to welcome some of the students and parents and artists who are here tonight with us. Before we now begin our program tonight. So tonight we are going to have a wonderful time hearing from the participants of Communications Village. So just to summarize a tiny bit about what Communications Village was. Ben Wigfall founded it in 1973. He thought it was going to be his studio, but it quickly, as Bobby can tell the story, he quickly met the teenagers in the neighborhood around him, and it became a community art space for making prints, for apprenticeship, for mentorship, for community gatherings, and you guys can tell that story so much better. But we have tonight with us my co-curator of the exhibition, Drew Thompson, who was the curator working with the Dorsky Museum, but he is an associate professor at Bard Graduate College in New York City. And then we have Pat Jow Kagamoto, who was Ben's student at State University of New York, New Paltz, made prints with him, and then he invited her to Communications Village to make her prints there, but also to mentor the students and to help running programs, and she was very much a part of the community there, including, she was not only a printmaker, but a photographer. She documented the day-to-day activities that were happening, which are just a beautiful testament. I think you have over 500 images that we've seen, but you'll see just a few of those, and it will be Pat's images in the background tonight as everybody speaks. And so we have Robert Bobby Easter, who was one of the participants who worked closely, especially in making prints with the artists. We have Teresa T.T. Thomas Washington, and we have Dina Washington, and Larry Carpenter was not able to be with us tonight. He was another student who you will hear and see his voice in the exhibition. You will hear all of these voices and see these images in the exhibition as well in the video that is playing. So without further ado, I am going to turn this over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, to the VMFA. It's wonderful to be here this evening, and it's especially wonderful to be here with both all of you. I want to say that I feel like this is kind of full circle because the idea of this exhibition and the ways that we thought about it stemmed from our conversations with Pat, Dina, Teresa, and Bobby, and Larry, and other founding members and participants and creators in this wonderful project known as Communications Village. And so this evening, we hope to share with you some of those conversations and some of those experiences that helped make this space possible, but also this exhibition, because it's really firmly rooted in your own life experiences and your creative work that you have done. So it's an extreme honor for me to be here and facilitate this conversation. So I thought that maybe one way of getting started was that maybe you all could start by talking to us about some of your earliest and fondest memories of meeting the artist, Benjamin Wigfall, before diving into what Communications Village was. I know you all each have very particular and fond memories, and I thought that we could start there. I don't know who wants to begin, but I know there's lots of memories here to be shared.
I first met Ben at the State University of New Paltz. He was one of my printmaking teachers, and he was very inspirational with his teaching, his demonstrations of techniques, and he shared suggestions that he hoped students would follow. He encouraged exploration and discovery, and for instance, he would say that you could use a scraper as a drawing tool. It's usually used to take off the edge on a zinc plate, and so it's at a 45-degree angle so you could run it through an etching press. And so I used the scraper as a drawing tool, and I was able to make lines which were at different widths, depending on how you held the scraper, be wide or narrow. And this was very helpful in me to express movement in my work. And I first started making realistic images, but this helped me to move into abstraction, which really excited me. And he also encouraged using soft ground to create different types of textures, such as from fabrics. And then I told him that I was interested in shaped plates. So he actually lent me his jigsaw, and he told me how to use it, and he said, just go to it. So that's what started me making cut-shaped plates. And I enjoyed doing that in my abstract work, because if I use two plates, you can see the tension and movement that's added besides using the lines and different textures. And one time, informally, he brought in some of his work. He didn't make an announcement in class, and he just brought in a few pieces of his work. So that was the first time that I saw his work and realized he was an exceptional artist. Yeah.
Dina, I don't know.
Hello. I met Ben in Pankaki. He came through the neighborhood. He just happened to be walking through the neighborhood, and next thing you know was, how you doing? What's your name? My name's Ben. What are you doing? Nothing. Would you like to do something? Yeah. The shop I have is right down around the corner. Come down there tomorrow morning and we can start some work. Okay. The next morning I went down there, and basically it was like, how should I say, elementary. We started just, first of all, building the insides and putting everything together. Then it was, after we had gotten the insides together, then it was starting to learn how to make prints. We had the acid room, we had the print shop. Oh boy, but then he taught me about the paper. There's hundreds of types of paper. Paper ranged from $20 to $150 a sheet. You can't mess this up. Oh my, okay. So we start making prints. Just to make a long story short, I ended up being the go-to guy. Ben would call me, Bobby, I need you. Okay. I'm there. And next thing you know, someone is there, Benny Andrews, other artists, and it's like, this is what I need you to do. Start on this print this way and do this. And next thing I know, there's a plate and a print made, and he says, okay, just now you know how, just make about a bunch of them. Just do it. How much time do I have to do this? I mean, take your time and do what you need to do. Just do it. Okay. So I've made quite a few prints. I ended up being the go-to guy. Ben would just call and I run. And I enjoyed it because Ben was like not only a mentor, my father. I would talk to him about anything. Growing up as a young guy in Pankaki, being raised by my grandparents, I just had questions, and he would answer those questions. Man was loving, caring, shoot, anything we needed. When the job or the grant had ended that for us to work, he paid us out of his pocket. Mm-hmm. I was like, Ben, this is, because he went right in his pocket and said, here, Bobby. Ben, you don't have to do this, man. I mean, I'll come down here anyway because I liked what I was doing. It just grew on me. Matter of fact, the man that was concerned about me, cared for me, that to me at that time was amazing. So I did what I had to do and did what I needed to do to stay involved. Oh, he gave me a key to the building. Responsibility, understanding, and trust. Oh my goodness. Those were big issues for me because the people, I mean, I can't say my grandparents didn't trust me or anything. However, me living with someone else, another man trusted me to do something with a whole building and had me coming in late at night and early in the morning making prints and the responsibility of being safe. Oh, wow, okay. I loved it. And so I stayed there as long as I could to do whatever I needed to do and help this man out. Ben was an innovator. He went out into the neighborhood and was trying to help people and do things. Unfortunately, a lot of our neighborhood maybe didn't understand as much. He tried to stretch out amongst Kingston and grab other buildings and do the same thing. And it was funny, some people didn't even want him in the neighborhood. So, because he was trying to stretch out so much so fast. But nevertheless, whenever he called me, time to go. And I loved it. That's Ben.
Teresa or Dina?
No, Dina, go.
I, too, met Ben Wigfall down in Pankaki. He established Communications Village practically in my backyard. I lived on it was a residential neighborhood, and all of the houses, of course, lined the block, but all of our backyards kind of met in the middle. And Communications Villages was in our play area, which is where we called the barnyard. Communications Village the barn became Communications Village. I used to suffer nosebleeds, severe nosebleeds when I was younger, so I spent a lot of time sitting on the end of my clawfoot bathtub looking out the window at the other children playing because my nose would bleed. My mom would give me lots of fluids to help, build my blood back up, and I had to sit quietly so that I didn't disturb the healing that was taking place and caused me to bleed again. So it was one day, sitting looking out that window at the building that was always dark. The windows were broken on the top floor, and bats and pigeons lived there. I looked out one day, and there was a light on. And all of the children got curious because that was our play area. My godfather had an old Cadillac, an old convertible fin-tail Cadillac that we used to play in the barnyard. And suddenly that was moved, like it wasn't there anymore. And we still gravitated towards that area. And whenever Ben's van would pull up, all of the kids would run over because we wanted an opportunity to hear from him and have him tell us what was going on in the building. And he would always take the time to talk to us. It really didn't matter if it was a young person like we were or an older person that wanted to talk to Ben. He always had time to talk to anybody. After a while, he let us come in, but only to the front door because it was dangerous. They were still doing construction. And as time went on, he allowed us to come in a little further, and eventually he allowed us upstairs once that was finished. And once we got upstairs and saw that wide open space that was the studio, it was so light and it was so airy that I was in awe. So just having the opportunity to be inside looking out instead of outside looking in, it just opened up a whole new world of opportunities. There was the big printing presses downstairs. There was a dark room upstairs, which really came to be my favorite place because I heard the stories about how expensive the papers were on a printing press, and I felt like I was in enough trouble at home. I didn't want to be in trouble there either, although I'm sure he would have been gentle with me. I just decided that I was better suited for photography. So I spent most of my time behind the lens of a camera or in the dark room. Ben was always supportive. Pat was always supportive. There was Rose Tripoli, Sharon, everyone was always, and others. But they were always extremely supportive. They gave us good information. They walked us through and explained everything so that we were able to execute, the job on our own. I did operate the press a few times, but it really wasn't my thing. The photography was where I was the most comfortable.
Teresa.
I met Ben also in Bukkake because we all grew up in Bukkake, and that's where I'm raising my family and my grandchildren. So I'm still in Bukkake. I met Ben probably walking down the street with his mic, interviewing people. And I remember him coming to my home and spending a lot of time interviewing my mother. And everybody, not just my mother, but everybody in the community. I don't think there was a house or a person that he did not have his, whatever you call that.
His reel-to-reel.
Yeah, it was big back then. It was not the little things, but it was a big, so that brought interest to me of what he was doing in the community, and also the people, since we were all like close-knit families, wondering who was this guy walking around asking questions in the community. But once everybody got to know Ben, they trusted them, they cared about him. He sat and he ate with us, he came to our homes, and like Dina said, he invited us in. I got a key also.
I had a key too.
Yeah. So we were, once he got the studio up and running, I got a job, I believe, through the summer youth program. And it was such a memorable time to work with Ben for him to take us under his wings the way he did. He gave us all cameras, you know, expensive cameras, and just, not Bobby. Yeah, Bobby had to stay inside the building because he wanted to make sure. But he gave us cameras, and we were able to go out in the community and take photos and go all over and take photos. And not only took photos, he taught us how to use the dark room when you had to go and put it on the reels and everything, and how to develop it was black and white at that time, but he was just so caring to all of us young people and the adults within the community. He cared about everybody. So I think I answered your question.
It was great. They were all great answers. It's been really extraordinary to hear about Communications Village as a space of documentation, a space of creative production, but I think what lies at its core and what it seems like compelled all of you to get involved was the notion of community that could then be built around the making of these art, whether photography or printmaking. One of the things that strikes me, and I think you all are so humble about, is when I think about the artists who traveled through your space. These are like the canon, the giants of Black art history. And I was wondering, so that we could share this much more broadly and with the audience here, if you could talk a little bit about this visiting artist program that allowed you all to engage with people like Robert Blackburn, Romare Bearden, Benny Andrews, Betty Blayton Taylor, Joe Ramos, Charles Gaines. Give us a little insight into both this artist program, but also what was it like to be with these giants and these greats?
For me, I'll speak. For me, we never seen them in that way. They were just regular people because Ben made us feel so comfortable around everybody anyway. So, you know, we were doing work with them, but they treated us as if we were important to them to help them do their work. So, you know, as a teenager, you know, somebody comes, you're not saying, oh, they're famous or nothing like that. So for me, I never looked at it like that, but I was so inspired to see that one of my drawings that is in the...
I think I could, it's here.
It's in there somewhere.
No. The print by Charles Gaines, which hopefully we could also...
And the artist that created it was this...
Benny Andrews.
Benny Andrews.
Yes, Benny Andrews.
I don't know, it should be here. I'm so sorry, I hate rolling through.
Yeah.
It might not, okay, keep going. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. And I remember Benny Andrews had us out there, and Ben had us out there, and all the kids was on the ground, and they were sitting there drawing, and Dear Jackson was standing in front of Ben's van. So that's a picture of Ben's van, which was one of the amazing things that we look forward to seeing coming through the neighborhood. And yes, and Benny Andrews, his artwork, the way he drew was similar to the way I drew, which I took and I start from the bottom up. I drew her legs and her feet and her bottom. And if you could see the way the body is leaning, you could tell that it came in later, because then I drew the thing around her. So, and if you've seen a picture of his work, I was looking at his work earlier today, and I was saying, did I draw that? Because it looks so much like how I draw. So he was inspiring. The Sneaker Man, which was Joe Ramos. and so many more. You know, they were so wonderful, and they really, really took time to work with us. That's what I could say about them.
Yes. And to piggyback back off of what Teresa said, we really didn't know they were giants. Ben would simply introduce them to us as his friends
Yeah.
or his colleague or a student. So we really didn't know. But going back to Benny Andrews, Teresa and I are subjects in one of his pieces called Dreamers. And actually what we were doing, we were around a table watching him draw. He sat down with a piece of paper and decided he was going to draw. And he, as she said, he started from the bottom. He drew like little lily pads and pieces of blades of grass, and then he went up into the clouds, and we had no idea what he was drawing. And he started from the right side of the paper, and he kind of made the outline of like tops of heads, but we thought he was drawing trees. We're trying to figure out what is he drawing, and we're guessing wrong, and finally it came together, but it was after he was almost complete. He was actually drawing us, watching him draw us. But he drew us and he put us in a different environment, like it was like an oasis or something. It was so beautiful. But yes, a lot of his friends would come in and work with us and take their time with us the same way Ben would. But we were young, and our interpretation of what was happening was from a immature mind, not totally immature, but a younger person's mind. They all dealt with us on the level we were on. We felt like they were teachers, but we never knew the magnitude of their greatness and their gifts and talent.
We do now.
We absolutely do now.
Yes.
Pat, I didn't know if you wanted to reflect as both someone who was making prints at the time and was a practicing artist about the Visiting Artists Program and its impact on you.
Well, Ben had commissioned me to make 2 prints. And so I created the plates. First I did the small one entitled number 93 at the exhibition. It includes a holograph. And Larry had assisted me in printing it, but I let him do most of the work, of course, so he can get some practice in. And it was a color viscosity print. And that's one of the techniques that Ben had taught me at school. So I hope that Larry and Bobby enjoyed doing viscosity print. And I know Bobby remembers how to make a viscosity print too. And the other print, entitled number 101 Burn Star, I actually was creating that print for myself, and I pulled a proof. And when Ben saw that, he unofficially commissioned me to go ahead and make that edition for CV. So I think I consider one of my masterpieces. It's not the masterpiece. And I know Ben realized there was something special about that print.
And I think for the audience, just to kind of clarify, what's so extraordinary about these quote-unquote giants coming in was that the youth were pulling their prints. They were helping not only be the subjects of these works, but the creators in so many ways. And Bobby, I was just wondering, I have to admit, one of my favorite prints is of the Converse shoes with Joe Ramos. That's so, I think, aptly talks about the moment in which Communications Village was taking place, but also the imagery that was being pulled in by this creative project. And so maybe I could ask you to speak a little bit about what this print is about, but also the experience of working with Joe to make it.
excuse me. Actually, the print meant a lot to me. Excuse me. Working with Joe was real simple, actually. He, again, just as Dina said, he took the time to help me finite everything on the print. I had 3 different types of rice paper to develop, which was a muddy one, a medium one, and a clean. And I had, like, how should I say, 3 proofs that, you know, each of were all different in style. Where it was shiny, unfortunately, the first one was too shiny, too clean, and so forth and so on. And he directed me exactly and very specifically of how he wanted the print to be. Ben, standing right there, was like, Bobby, stop being nervous. Again, Ben was like my father. He'd just directly tell me what to do and stop worrying. Okay, just do it. Okay. And I took my time. It took me a couple days to actually finish all 50 prints. But I did it, and Ben allowed me to come into Communications Village with my key, start when I want to, finish when I want to, and he left me alone after he said what he had to say and do what I had to do, or he had to do, and I just enjoyed the entire aspect. A lot of guys shun the fact that an adult is not screaming at you, but giving you constructive criticism, talking to you sometimes abrasively, but directly, specifically, and then me being a learning person, I was just accepting of it. Okay, but I was afraid, but okay. As most kids are when you're learning stuff and going through things and not knowing how something's going to turn out. All these artists came in, and like Dina said, we were kids, and okay, yes. And I tried to take in a little bit from each person, and it ended up that after I did this, I said, Ben, when can I make my own plate? Huh? You want to make a plate? Yeah. And I think someone has a print of my plate that I made called Godfoot. And that print was basically about, and I was just upset with things in the world at the time, and I wanted God to come in and stomp out all the evil. And so the print was just a nice sky on one side and this big heavy cloud coming in, and to whereas it would just erase all the evil and you have all nice people. So I was just trying to take from everybody all the information, Pat, how to put texture on the plate, how to use different colors to do this, even though mine was only a black and white. But I thought about trying to make the sky a certain color, and it was just stuff. But it was, to me, it was fun. It was part of the learning process that when you start enjoying stuff, it's no longer a job. And it's like, okay, let's do this. And I just enjoyed it. It was just pleasant to see everyone come in, give you information, you try to test it out here and there. And then, and then you had the family come in from time to time. And they would look around and say, wow, you did this, you did that. And I'm like, yes. And and I was like, they shared their dad. So
It's also amazing to think here, too, about the influence that this engagement had on the artists who came in, many who were, like Charles Gaines, making prints for the first time because of the space that Ben had created, or thinking about Betty Blayton Taylor or Ernest Frazier and Ernie Critchlow, who were expanding their practice as a result of the conversations that were happening. Dina, I'm kind of looking at you, but I'm also looking at you, Teresa, when I'm thinking about the community posters that you all made that was taking the practice of printmaking into a direction that was both taking imagery from the community but also making work that was serving the community. And here, Pat, I'm thinking about the photographs that you were taking, many of them which we're seeing here, that are documenting the activities of Communications Village. And I'm just wondering if we could just maybe spend some time reflecting on how the community was not only critical to Ben's idea about what CV was supposed to become, but over the years, as it operated through the 1970s and early 1980s, the community became critical to sustaining CV when it faced financial challenges. It also helped, open up, arts education for children, the children's workshops. So I was just wondering if we could just spend a little bit of a moment reflecting on the work that Communications Village helped produce for the community, whether that be the posters. Dina, I know your mother was a part of the choir, and that serving the church was also an important facet of CV. So I don't know who wants to take up that reflection.
Let me see. Ben was always doing something. So he was always busy in the community. So there was always something, ideal that he was having going on. So we was making a lot of these prints, posters and everything, which was an interesting process because the block printing, the way you had to set up the letters and everything, and the wood pieces, and half the time there wasn't enough letters to write out a full word. So, and then it takes you all that time to figure out and put them on, set them up, and then you print it out, and there's a letter backwards. So that happened a lot of times. And if you look at it, you'll see that they're lopsided and crooked and stuff like that. So that was a feat within itself. But it was a wonderful thing because that meant something was going on in the community that Ben had inspired and worked with us and had us be a part of organizing and getting out the word with it. And personally with me, he set up an art gallery, and he had it done at one of our community centers. And he took me and he showed me how to do an art gallery, and he showed me from the beginning all the way to matting and framing and putting up, how to hang it up, how to get out the word to the community, yeah, everything. He said from the beginning to the end, which I am so thankful for Ben for doing that. And I've learned so much from him. I have a program that I work with, and a lot of the stuff, I have artists come in and work with kids and do things and show them things. And I am thankful for Ben spending so much time with us, and not just having us do things, but teaching us how to do those things and telling us why, that they had to be done, this way or whatever. So he wasn't just like using us or to get his work done. He was pulling us along so we would be able to do something in the future. So the program that I've been running for 30 years now is helping the kids in the community, and they're getting a little feel from me, from Ben, through me to them. So I could say I'm so thankful for Ben and the crooked letters and everything.
Dina, I don't know if you want to talk about that. You good?
For me, well, my wife knows I'm getting ready to set up a fish fry. And with this fish fry, I have on my heart to talk to the community. These are things that I've learned from Ben, because a closed mouth doesn't get fed. I need to talk to the community about the kids in the neighborhood. First of all, you start with your own kids, and you teach them all those little jewels that you got when you were younger. Don't put too many eggs in one basket. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Bird in the hand is better than two in a bush. Those phrases never came into view until I got older and I saw them myself. However, I got them when I was younger from aunts, uncles, Sharon. Someone who would speak out just to say, and this was stuff that Ben did to me, because I always thought I was a wild kind of guy until I met Ben. What are you doing? Why are you acting like that? You don't need to do that. So one of the things that's on my heart is to talk to people in the community about kids. Not every kid is bad in your community. So if you could give them one of those jewels and snatch one kid and their friends see what's going on, that they're doing better, that will snatch another kid. So you got two kids off the street. That's one. Two, help the elders in the neighborhood. That's me. My wife knows there's a couple people in the neighborhood I always look after, and at least to say, how are you? Are you okay? That's something else I taught from Ben, learned from Ben, because he used to do that with people. Mr. Fat Jackson. We would always check in with him if we didn't see him in a certain amount of time. And then thirdly, the community itself. If you look at your community, which I live in Baltimore, my community isn't bad. We just have certain people, little kids, and I like to say some other things, but that come through your neighborhood and tear things up. And so we as people, as Ben has taught, somebody has to say something, but it doesn't always have to be me. It could be shared. So another thing that he always said, it takes a community to raise it takes a village to raise a family or a child. So that was something else I learned. So I need to put that in effect, or we as a people in my community need to put that in effect. So I just want to talk to people about it. Mm-hmm. If I put the word out there, as Ben would do, put the word out there, then you might see it, not in the same perspective as I do, but you might see it, so therefore you might want to do something about it. And that's a lot of what I got from Ben with that.
That's great. Thank you.